People of Earth, we come in peace.
Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor. I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Max World Live. Max World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Max World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Max World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
Good afternoon, 6 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock on this Friday, the 8th day of April in the Lord's year 2016. J. Michael McCoy back in the saddle with the Friday edition of Max World Live. Fridays are always 15% more fun. Chris Roloff from 993thetruth.com. Also, Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. And he's watching for your text. That's right. You can text this program at 515-809-0993. That's the Service Legends Truth text line. Anytime, any question, any thought, you're welcome to put that in there. We don't do caller ID. I've told you this before, but I just want you to know I think it's important if you've got an opinion on what we're talking about. But if you do want your voice heard, and it's actually your voice, you'd call Jeb at 515-244-0077. That's 244-0077. That's our studio line, and you're welcome to call in. All right, my guest today is Tom Walton, who is a Des Moines attorney, and he's also chairman of the Iowa's Public Safety Advisory Board. What the heck is the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board?
Mac, thanks for asking me to be on your show. I appreciate it. The Public Safety Advisory Board was created by the legislature in 2011.
Okay.
And it's got various duties, but one of its duties is to make recommendations and to review policies relating to sentencing in Iowa. And that has been one of the things that the board's been involved in since its inception.
And right now, that's really come to light because, I don't know, is it because the Register did a story? I mean, is there... specifically, we're kind of talking about that young man who decided to rob the liquor store and 2 bottles of liquor and threw 2 punches at a guy and busted his face up and got 10 years. And the Des Moines Register seems to think, and maybe there's others, seems to think that maybe the mandatory sentencing like that for second-degree burglary is too high.
It's been a matter of public debate probably for the last 4 or 5 years. We made recommendations on the issue of mandatory minimums for first and second degree robbery back in 2013. At the federal level, in the Senate currently, there is a bill regarding sentencing reform at the federal level for lower level drug offenses. They're also trying to give federal judges more leeway on sentencing guidelines. So I think there are, and it's been bipartisan, both Republicans and Democrats have shown an interest in taking another look at sentencing and whether we have the proper balance right now between the purpose for punishment and the best use of public dollars.
Tom Walton is my guest. He's an attorney, and he's also, I got to get this right because there's no way I'm going to remember how to say this. He is the chairman of the Iowa's Public Safety Advisory Board. How do you get on that? Is that elected? Is that nominated? Is that appointed?
I am appointed as the public member. I was appointed initially for a 3-year term by Governor Culver and then reappointed for another 3-year term by Governor Branstad, and then I was asked to serve as the chairperson this year. There are other appointees to that board, but then there are positions on the board that are there because of the positions that the members hold in the state government. For example, we have representatives from the Department of Public Safety, Department of Corrections, Attorney General's Office, Department of Human Rights, Board of Parole. So really all the state agencies that have an interest in public safety issues are represented on the board.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for doing that. That is not something, and this is not what does that mean when I put myself down?
Yep, putting yourself down.
I'm just not smart like that, and I know people like that, or I know positions like that need to be filled. So thanks for doing it. Thanks for your public service. So let me go back for a second. So let's go, and you can pick the year. I'm going to say 1950, just because it's in the middle of the decade.
Okay.
But at some point, I'm guessing we didn't have mandatory sentencing.
Correct. In Iowa, that's correct.
All right. About when was that?
Started in the early 90s.
Wow.
There was a perception at the time that crime was out of control. And at the federal level, they began to encourage states to impose mandatory minimums for certain crimes. And there was, for some period of time, federal money to do that. And so early 90s is when mandatory minimums came into effect in Iowa for crimes that are called forcible felonies. So it would be a felony that involves actual serious injury or threat of serious injury.
You use a gun, you use a knife, you hurt somebody.
Right. We're talking crimes, your standard felonies, murder, kidnapping, rape, robbery, and there can be others.
So how would a judge, well, first of all, who would determine how long the perpetrator, now found guilty, would be sentenced to?
The Iowa legislature has set forth terms of years for various classes of felonies. So you have Class A, which is a life sentence by statute. Class B is 25 years. Class C is 10 years. And Class D is 5 years. And so a judge in Iowa, if a person is convicted of a crime, say a Class B felony, robbery 1, the judge says, I am sentencing you to 25 years, but it's an indeterminate term, which means if there had been no mandatory minimums, that person would be considered for possible release by the parole board at some period of time that the corrections officials thought it was appropriate.
So if I've got a 25-year mandatory sentence, I'm not getting out, no matter how nice I play inside the jail.
Yes, you used to be able to get out.
Okay.
But with mandatory minimums now, they said you have to serve at least 70% of that 25 years. So you're stuck in there for 17 years, and you're never considered for parole prior to that time.
Now, and I'm asking you to go back in history, and maybe you don't know this, but if I was a judge in Polk County in 1950, 60, before there were mandatory sentences, did I like that, or would I prefer mandatory sentencing?
Well, I think it depends on the judge. I can't speak for all judges. The reaction, for example, on the federal bench, by some judges to what were sentencing guidelines, where the legislature was telling judges, for example, they would have a person who came in on a drug offense, and they had to give that person X years, period. They had no choice in the matter. A lot of them didn't like that because they would see things in the file or perceive things in the person, or they'd get reports from social workers that indicated that this particular person, under these particular circumstances, that may not have been the best sentence for them. So the idea that even criminals are individuals and have individual lives, have individual circumstances, and the idea, for example, with mandatory minimums, that everybody convicted of robbery 2, which would be a 10-year sentence, must serve 7 years of that 10-year sentence, that may not be appropriate for somebody.
Who likes mandatory sentences? Who would I bring in here who would, well, I don't know. Do you like them?
I agree with the board's position with respect to these mandatory minimums.
Okay.
I think this is a good place to start to try to see. First off, all it means is that the person is eligible for parole. They may end up serving 25 years or they may serve 15 years. All it does is allow them to be considered for release earlier. So I'm in support of that. I favor that. I know, based on comments by some county attorneys in Iowa, that they support mandatory minimums as sending a message to people that we take these crimes seriously, and if you do the crime, you'll do the time. One of the issues with that is that assumes that these mandatory minimums have a deterrent effect, that criminals actually
Right.
know about a 70% rule. They don't. And
we should have a big neon sign above Get and Go that says, if you rob me, you're going to the hooch for 7 to 10 years.
And we could tell them that if you're convicted of this, you, under the current mandatory minimums, if you pull a gun or you pull a knife, you're going to serve 17 years.
Wow.
Period.
So I think that would be a really cool sign to have in a convenience store, especially now with what's going on. What have we had? 7 robberies in 23 days or something like that?
Yes.
I don't think these people realize they can be ripped from their families for 17 years. Well, of course, I wouldn't do it, but that'd sure make me think twice.
Yes, but the board staff looked at rates of incarceration for robbery 1 and 2, and we didn't see an effect. Okay, so you didn't see a decline in robberies when after the mandatory minimums were imposed, which would indicate it doesn't have a deterrent effect. Now, you're right, different ways to get that information out could or could not, but it hasn't proven to have a deterrent effect.
Okay, I've got 35 seconds for you to answer this question. If somebody was sitting over here in this chair and they hated mandatory sentencing, what would be their position? Why did they not like them? Why do they want them changed?
They don't take into account individual circumstances of the offender.
Okay.
They imprison people for longer than what is required. It's expensive. It costs $33,000 a year to incarcerate, on average, a prisoner in Iowa today. That if that person does not need to be in prison, then they shouldn't be in prison for any longer than they have to be. Okay.
Now, all right, well, we're going to take a break. I've got a hard break here in 30 seconds for the network, so I'm going to take a break, and we'll come back in 3 minutes. Tom Walton is my guest. He is the chairman of Iowa's Public Safety Advisory Board. Yeah, I got a mucky muck in here today. I got a big deal. And this comes from the article in the Register that the Register is saying that it's racist. Mandatory sentencing is racist. And they're putting quite a story out there to make us try to believe that. We'll talk about that when we come back on The Truth.
Anything more or less you want from me?
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Open the gates, I wanna get things. Open the gates, I wanna get things.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21. You know who that is? Jeb, put your microphone on and tell Mr. Roloff who that is, because this is really Jesus freaky music. This is the stuff that I played in the, when was I first? In the late 70s on KBHL in Lincoln, Nebraska, which was called Kept by His Love. And these are, what, the Jesus Freaks? Is that the name of the group? Hello?
He's working on that microphone thing.
The All Saved Freak Band of the 100th Psalm.
This is the 100th Psalm by the All Saved Freak Band. You remember these guys at all?
The All Saved Freak Band.
Yeah, I've never heard of them.
Missed out on that one.
These were, okay, think of the hippies in the 60s and 70s.
See one every morning in the mirror.
And these were the ones that loved Jesus but probably smoked dope. They looked a little different. Their music, I mean, there's some of their stuff that, sounds like AC/DC.
Sure.
But they were all faith-based guys. None of their songs were blasphemous. They were a great band. But you had Bob Dylan and Bob Marley and those guys on one side singing about secular stuff, and then you had this band and a couple of others on the other side singing about Jesus stuff. There you go. Something you didn't know before.
That's cool.
You learned. This is why Max World Live on Fridays is 15% more fun.
All Saints Jesus Freaks or whatever it was.
Yep, that's right.
All Saved Freak Band.
All Saved Freak Band. Wow. I don't know if I should Google that. That
You
seems
should.
dangerous.
Oh, you'd love some. It's some of their music you wouldn't like, but it's pretty good.
They have 75 likes and only 1 dislike.
See?
That's great odds.
All right, my guest today, my serious guest today is Thomas Walton. He's a Des Moines attorney and also is the chairman of the Iowa's Public Safety Advisory Board, has been since 2001. Much of the discussion on that board has focused on easing. Well, now wait. I don't know if I want to say that. Much of the discussion has been focused on mandatory minimum sentences. The Register added in focused on easing harsh. Gee, those are journalistic words to lead you one way, isn't it? Some reformers also want to review mandatory minimum sentence for violent crimes. And so it's your committee, the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board, who works with the legislature to determine what mandatory sentences should be.
Correct. We understood we had a statutory obligation to look into it. We did, and we made a recommendation to the legislature.
And did they accept your idea?
They have not to date. Representative Mary Wolf this year did introduce a general bill to get rid of all mandatory minimums. Didn't get past the House. Then there was a bill on domestic abuse, which actually imposed mandatory minimums.
And that got by yesterday.
That got by with respect to domestic abuse. She appended to that bill our proposal just on robbery 1 and 2 to remove mandatory minimums and actually set the minimum at 3 years for robbery 2 and 7 years for robbery 1. That made it through the House.
Wow.
But I don't think it made it through the Senate. I haven't heard that it did. I thought it was going to be part of the domestic abuse.
Because the domestic abuse bill passed.
That's what I
understand. The Senate on Wednesday, I think Wednesday, we announced.
That sounds right. Yeah, we were talking about
that. But there was, I think, some opposition in the Senate from a few Democrats, and I think they were law enforcement folks, about removing the mandatory minimums for robbery 1 and 2.
But the mandatory minimums, Tom, can also work against the convicted criminal. Because the judge can then come back and say, I really don't like the way you look 50 years. Well, not I know, but you know what I mean, right? Or no? Am I wrong?
Yes. I mean, you don't have a case. our system is not that a judge can sentence people to anything they want.
Okay.
Right. And so in a way, you're right. I suppose you could get a hanging judge that says, I'm going to put you away for 75 years for a crime that even the legislature says should only be a 25-year. So that is true. That is some protection. I think it's probably on the margins. But
okay. All right. So I'm assuming you read the article that was in the Register.
I did.
And I want to be very careful and honor you as an attorney and as on this board. And let me make this clear: the opinions of myself are not that of Tom Waltons, Chris Roloff, Bob Montserrat, Jeb Bush, or KTIA. And I'm serious about that.
But I guess my question before you even read that is, I wanted to ask you, Tom, are the quotes in there actually your quotes?
I believe so.
Okay. Just want to get that out.
I did not have any disagreement with.
Because that's new that the Register would actually properly quote you. Again, the opinions of this Brett man are not.
I was tape recorded, so I expected she'd be able to quote me accurately.
All right. My issue is, and you may or may not know this about me, I don't have any white guilt. I don't have any. In the times in my life when I've been put into a situation where I've been called a racist, I just don't even pay attention. You don't even know what a racist is. And so when I see a left-wing, progressive, low-information voter newspaper trying to say that when there are, and let me get the facts here, when there are 1,190 inmates serving time in Iowa prisons for violent crimes, and 35% of those inmates are black in a state where 3.4% of the population is black, I say, I guess they commit more crimes. And of course I get, and I don't know what side of the counter you sit on. I didn't ask you that, and I don't mean to offend you if you sit on the other side. But that's, to me, that's just low information voters, progressives having white guilt and saying, oh, we got to be nicer to black people and all these people. And if they commit the crime, they do the time. But the Register wants me to believe that it's racist in this state, that more blacks go to jail because of the color of the skin, not the crime they commit.
Well, the robbery 1 and 2, our analysis found, does result in overrepresentation of African Americans in the prison system. About 50% or more of the folks who are in prison for robbery 1 are African American. So they are incarcerated at a higher rate than what their population would indicate. Yes, I know county attorneys are of the opinion that that's because they commit the crimes. Whatever the case may be, whether they're white or black, the question is it the best use of taxpayer money to keep somebody in prison for 17 years when they, for all other reasons, could be released at 7 years? And if we open up that opportunity of an earlier release by the Board of Parole after review, after assessment, after rehabilitation, that will hopefully tend to decrease the population of African Americans in prison for longer than they need to be.
I agree with you. I've never heard it said that well. There's no reason to keep any person in jail if they, and what was the thing you said, assessment? Rehabilitation,
assessment, and review by the parole board. And one of the things we found is with respect to assessment tools being used by the Department of Corrections, they have gotten better and better at determining somebody's likelihood to be violent or likelihood to reoffend. And the study that the staff did showed that when they did those assessments on folks in jail or in prison who were serving a mandatory minimum, their assessments showed that they were no more violent and no more likely to commit another crime than people who were in prison not on a mandatory minimum. Okay. So the assumption that people who, for example, commit robbery 1 or robbery 2 are inherently more violent or likely to commit further crimes,
it's not true.
May not be true.
Yeah.
May not be true. So if that's the case, then they really shouldn't be treated any differently.
Well, here would be my question, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but if a white guy and a black guy both rob, get and go. I'm just picking on get and go this week. I'll pick on Krause for a while. Come and go. So if a white guy and a black guy, and it's the same situation, and they go in and rob something, and they're both given the mandatory sentence, if they act the same in prison, the black guy ought to get out of prison exactly the same time as the white guy. That's where I would see criminal racism done by, if the rehabilitation and the assessment of the parole board all find that these guys are fine, but one guy stays in prison longer, then I would say that would be very, very unfair.
I understand that, and the idea is if we can open up an opportunity for people to be released earlier than what is the current mandatory minimum, because of the percentage of African Americans that are serving that sentence, that could have the happy effect of reducing the percentage of African Americans that are incarcerated for that crime as compared to the population.
And we should do that as a society, right? You did the crime, you pay the time, and paying the time is I can't even read my own writing. Rehabilitation, assessment, and the parole board says fine.
Correct.
A mandatory minimum was made up by guys. It can be unmade up by guys.
So the idea is if, like I said, it's $31,000, $33,000 a year to keep somebody in a state prison. If you could take that money and redirect it to some other area that might actually reduce crime, you might get more bang for your buck, reduce the rate of crime in some communities because you're redirecting the resources to something that is more has a more measurable positive effect on crime rates.
Tom Walton is my guest. He is the chairman of the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board. He has been since 2011, and we're very pleased and humbled to have him here today. Is there any statistics, Tom, on what it costs after they get out of prison until they are on their own? Because they go to a halfway house, don't they usually?
Yes.
And they meet with a parole officer. And I would imagine there's some state assistance, food stamps, welfare, whatever. Is there any figures on what we invest for a year, 2 years, or 3 years on those prisoners?
There may be. I came prepared on the cost of annual incarceration. I'm sure there are studies to show the expense, but you have not only that expense post-release, but if you can reduce the crime rate overall, you also save on the judicial side, the prosecutor's side.
Oh, absolutely.
The cost of the court.
Absolutely. That's expensive.
Right.
Chris?
Well, one of the things that was brought up when we talked about this story, not the story in which you're quoted in, but an earlier story, was that part of what's causing the higher percentage of black folks in prison is one of cost for an attorney, quality of attorney, because of the financial wherewithal of the person being incarcerated or the family of the person being, accused, not incarcerated. Do you think that has any merit? I mean, it would seem like, because here's why that doesn't seem to fit with me. It seems that if you have a mandatory minimum sentence, you do crime X, which you're convicted that you did that. Here's what you're going to get in prison. Obviously, whether you're found guilty or not has something to do with the quality of your attorney. So is that what they're talking about? Do you think is that where the discrepancy comes in? That maybe if you don't have a state attorney that is as qualified as maybe someone public attorney that you've hired. I mean, we're talking about your profession there, Tom, and I don't want to get you in any trouble.
The problem is every case is different. So the facts in every case are different, so it's hard to do a apples-to-apples comparison in terms of here's a case with the exact same facts, exact same circumstances. This was a $200 an hour attorney. This was a $60 an hour attorney. What was the result? And that you might be able to do that study to see what the outcomes were in both those cases. I'm not aware of it. Iowa public defenders do a thankless job, do it well, and do it for less money than they should be getting
paid.
Which means you got to pay tax dollars. But when private commercial attorneys in the corporate world are making $300 to $500 an hour, and public defenders are getting paid $60 an hour, that doesn't seem necessarily to be the best.
Well, isn't that? Oh, we're coming up on a break. Tom, we'll come right back. We're live here on The Truth. It's live in Mac's World.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing.
The All Saved Freak Band from 1971. Aren't these guys great? This is like pre-Joan Baez. Okay, Chris is giving me that look. 515-244-0077. That's the number you can join in on the phone. If you'd like to text us with a question or comment, you can text us at the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. Any texts or comments on the chat? Is Army Brad on there today?
Yes, he is. His comment is, don't commit the robbery.
Well, thanks, Brad. It's when you bring Army Brad into a conversation that everything really gets fired up.
Yeah.
We can really get to solutions this way.
Yeah.
Don't commit the crime. Good. Tell you what, I'd hate to be the young man that tries to date his daughter one day. All right. My guest is Tom Walton. He's a Des Moines attorney. Can I say which firm?
You may if you'd like, sure.
Well, you don't have to. Just give you a plug if you want.
Sure, that'd be fine. I'm with the Nymaster Good firm.
Very good firm. Not because it has good in it, but it's just a good firm. He is a Des Moines attorney with Nymaster Good. He is also the chairman of the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board. You were appointed by Chet Culver and reappointed by Governor Branstad. You started this in 2011. Is this a fun thing to do? Or is it like I need to give back to my community?
I'm interested in all things legal, and I had not had as much exposure as I would have liked to the criminal side and the correction side. So for me, it was a matter of self-education. It was a way for me to learn something that I was interested in and be of some use.
Okay. Maybe this is a simple question. Maybe it's not. Okay, so the public pays taxes that pays for the public defender. It is the most unfortunate, usually it's the most unfortunate that they have no choice but to choose a public defender. So I would think as a taxpayer, I'd be okay with hiring an attorney for $300 an hour rather than $60 an hour. Now that seems logical to me. Where is that broken in the system? Why are we not paying public defenders what Bill Cutmus or these guys make?
Well, because people don't want to pay more taxes.
Well, but we pay more taxes all over the place, and we don't. You got a speed camera coming down at 6th and Locust tomorrow.
People don't. Frankly, I think there's an attitude that public defense for people charged with a crime is not worth it.
What, they don't believe in the Constitution, that everybody does? Isn't that in what they call the Miranda rights? You have a right to have an attorney if one.
That's correct.
I watch Cops, so that's how I know
that's correct. But I'm not sure people value that or understand the importance that we put on making sure that people who are accused of a crime get a fair trial and are fairly represented. I'm not sure people value that because, after all, they're criminals.
But they're not yet.
That's true.
Aren't we still innocent until proven in this country? And I'm not trying to be funny. Or has that really gone with the society? Is that? I mean, I was raised on that. You're innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to a trial. Have we kind of washed that away in culture and said, well, if you do it, we use this word alleged in the media, but it really doesn't mean alleged. It means we think you did it. We just haven't said guilty yet.
I don't know. I don't know what people's general view is on that, but I think that's one of the reasons why defense attorneys are not compensated. Should they be compensated at the level of, say, a corporate attorney? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you have to be able to balance it again. A tax rate that's fair, that gets good representation and does a good job, but no more than that.
See, what I think would be cool. Right now, most of the people who are defense attorneys, public defenders, are probably younger, just out of law school, ready to learn. What if we took the 65-year-old guys who had made their money, had been unbelievably successful, and they were the ones that were getting the $60 an hour? I mean, if the rate has to be $60 an hour for a public defender, why don't we have the best guys we can get at $60 an hour?
Because they don't want to do it for $60 an hour.
Okay, it's just simple. Yeah, okay.
The public defender has put into place a system now where you can be paid more per hour. You will get more difficult cases, but they've now basically set up kind of a career path and established a training program so that a person or a younger attorney has to have so many trials before they can take on, for example, a more serious case at a higher hourly rate. So they've tried to build in sort of a development program so that somebody who is charged with a serious crime is assigned a public defender at a little higher rate than the base rate, and who they know has actually kind of gone through the paces, has been trained, has had trial experience, has had serious cases. And so I think that is a good way to improve the quality, too.
Tom Walton is our guest. He is a successful attorney here in our community, graduate from the Iowa Law School. He is also the chairman of the Iowa's Public Safety Advisory Board. When you say they try to get more experienced attorneys, or they set up a system, who's they?
The Iowa Public Defender's Office.
Okay, not your office.
Not our office. It's another agency or office of the state, and it's the State Public Defender's Office.
I mean, I'm not for more taxes. I'm not really hardcore right, am I? I'm more right than I am left. But we pay a stupid amount of taxes for things we don't even know we pay for. It would seem that public defense of an alleged criminal should be, kind of up there at the top with taking care of babies and orphans. Or no, that would be the same. Widows and orphans.
I think, Tom, you made a great point, though. I think the culture at large says, but they're criminals. So why do they need to be defended? I mean, look, man, I'm going to be honest, and I know I've thought that stuff. I've been on a jury selection, and I just had to tell the guys. I said, I'm not going to lie to you and sit here and say that I think this guy's innocent. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to believe. I was already in the room, and there's the guy. And I just said, I think the guy's guilty. I don't know how to not think that. I didn't grow up maybe feeling the way that Mac did. I pretty much assume if you've gotten this far, you probably did the thing. I mean, because I haven't seen enough cases where someone is wrongly accused, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe we just don't get enough experience of people being wrongly accused. You guys are over here mocking me. I mean,
I'd strike you from the jury panel for sure.
No, I was.
That's what he wants.
No, I was, and it was really great. I just have to tell you, the guy though that was the defense attorney. This was in Texas, man. I swear he was right out of a John Grisham novel. I wanted to stay in the room because that guy got me excited. He was just the great attorney, the defense attorney.
Well, see, I was raised by an attorney who then became a Superior Court justice, or then became a judge and eventually became a Superior Court justice. So I think I'm blessed. Some people might say I'm cursed, but I'm blessed to have that vision. I'll tell you one thing. I have never given a police officer a bad time when they pull me over because my mother made it clear to me, they're not the judge. Take the ticket, go before the judge. Right. If I ever find out you've been disrespectful, you're off my list. So I've been in that world, and maybe that's why I seem a little liberal on that side. If you're going to have a young man or a young woman who is charged with a crime and they can't afford an attorney on their own, the one we give them ought to be the best in the Cheerios box, not the least.
We're a country based on a value of freedom, and there's no more critical point in time when the full force of the state is coming at you saying you did this and we're going to take your freedom from you.
Yeah.
That's when if you ever need a lawyer, that's when you need one.
Now, is it the same way on the prosecutor side? Are those prosecutors paid $60 an hour?
They are not getting paid at, for example, a rate that might be paid in a private practice. And that's frankly the case with a lot of public employees. They tend not to be paid at exactly the same market rate as a private employer. I think they get in return some stability. I think they get some vacation time, and there's some other things that offset that. It's public service. A lot of people want to be involved in public service, and they get a lot of value out of that.
Thomas Walton is our guest. When we come back, the incarceration rate for crimes have gone down since mandatory sentences. What does that tell you? Next.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Wait for it, Chris. Here's your new music you like.
Unto the Lord.
the All Saved Jesus Freak Band. My buddy Kyle, who's a listener, recommended this.
Good job, Kyle.
Oh, I got a comment here, too.
Okay.
On text. That bumper music is lousy.
Well, we're not going to use it after today. It was a gift from my friend Kyle today for a Friday, because Fridays are 15% more fun. However, we are going to begin to change up the bumper music. So if anyone has any suggestions, and bumper music is the music we play going into a commercial break and coming out of a commercial break. I guess it's because we bump up against breaks. That's why it's called bumper.
Who knows?
But if you have a favorite song, just call the request line at 244-0077. Talk to DJ Jeb, and we'll get it on for you. No, but variety. Variety is the spice of life. All right, for just the next few minutes, my guest has been this hour Thomas Walton, a Des Moines attorney with Nyemaster Good, and is also the chairman of the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board. Has been doing that for 5 years. No, it'd have to be longer than 5. You were put in by Culver.
Right. I served 3 years, and I was reappointed when Branstad was elected, which was 2 years ago.
Well, it was first time around or second time around? He was elected first, and then we re-elected him.
Yeah, first time around.
Okay, so you've been in there 6, 7, 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so you were probably put in about 2008.
That might be.
All right. And by the way, again, I said it earlier, thanks for serving on that kind of stuff.
My pleasure.
I always thank teachers, too, because I could never teach my kids. I couldn't have taught me. So I'm thankful for people like you who do things that other people don't want to do. Now, here's what's interesting. And you brought a statistic, which if this is the truth, and I believe you when you tell me the truth, this kind of changes my mind. Maybe we do need to lower mandatory sentencing. Because since mandatory sentencing was put in place in 1991, right, incarceration has dropped every year. So that would tell me that I said the wrong thing a minute ago, that mandatory sentencing works. Because fewer people are going to prison because they know they could go for 17 years, not 7.
Well, at least at the national level, crime rate has gone down 51% since 1991.
In America?
Yes. Would
you have thought that?
There's 50% less violent crime today than there was in 91.
I am shocked by that. I would have told you that it's up 50%. See, I watch too much CNN. That's my problem.
Yeah.
They show all the blood because if it bleeds, it leads.
Correct.
That's my problem. Okay.
Correct. And what they call mass incarceration, or the increase in the incarceration rate, including mandatory minimums, habitual offender incarceration, people credit that entirely for the decline. And it's a debate among sociologists and criminologists as to what caused the decline. What I am seeing in the studies is between 5 and 20% of the decline can be attributed to mandatory minimums, so that there were some offenders who were particularly dangerous or particularly likely to reoffend who were incarcerated, and so for the period of time that they were incarcerated that they otherwise would not have been, they were not out committing crimes, which lowers the rate. But there have been other demographic reasons for it. The baby boomers have aged out, and as people age out, they tend to be less violent. They commit less crimes.
Yeah, I'm a wussy.
So that generation kind of came and went.
I mean, my criminal days are over. You have to admit, I'm past the age of. I know better now.
There was the crack usage tended to dissipate.
Okay, I'm just being funny.
Which was, of course, source for a lot of crime, but that people began to see all the adverse effects of that usage, and so that began the demand for crack.
Yeah,
started going away. So there were lots of different factors, not necessarily tougher sentences, that people are identifying as potentially lowering the crime rate during that period of time.
All right, so when somebody says to me that black people are in jail, prison more for violent crimes because they're black and not because they did the crime, What is the right answer? I don't care if I agree with it or not. Should my answer be no? That's wrong. We do have too many black people going to prison over white. We are doing something wrong in this country that way, and we need to change it. Or do I say, you do the crime, you're going to do the time, no matter what your color skin is?
The facts indicate that incarceration for blacks is at a higher percentage than what their population would indicate, which would indicate that they are committing a greater percentage of those crimes. That's just a fact, as indicated by the statistics. Are mandatory minimums racist? No, but they do have a disparate impact given the rate of commission of crimes. And people have looked at, for example, why is that? And it's not necessarily the color of their skin. It is, in some cases, conditions. They've seen that economic conditions, demographic conditions, neighborhood conditions can have an effect on the crime rate. And it's not all necessarily solely that individual. It's everything.
All right, Tom Walton, I appreciate you being here today very much. You are the chairman of the Iowa Public Safety Advisory Board. When you're done and off this board, what do you hope your legacy is?
Good public service, that I was attentive, that the board did its job, and had a positive impact on public safety at a fair cost.
I mean, you're a young man. You have a political career ahead of you if you want. You have more service committee. Is there other things on the state level you'd like to be able to do? Are we looking at Governor Walton someday?
I don't know. I am interested in public service. If asked, I'm glad to serve.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
You and I didn't know each
Appreciate it.
other. I just called you on the phone, and you came in, and I greatly appreciate that. I hope you feel we treated you fairly.
Enjoyed the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service. All right. We're going to take our break, and when we come back, Brian Meyer is in the house, and we're going to talk about, well, first of all, I've got Congressman Steve King. He's going to be on the phone. He's not going to be in the studio, but he's going to be on the phone, and we're going to talk a little bit about politics. Because this weekend is the Iowa convention. So to choose delegates for the Republican side. Is it just the Republicans this weekend, or is it both?
I think the Democrats are
meeting same way? Okay, so this is a big weekend for Iowa. I know you and I thought the caucus weekend was a big deal. Well, that's just the sizzle. Now we get into the steak. Now we get into choosing delegates, and this is what will happen when we get to the Republican convention. And then later on, remember JoJo White? No, not the famous basketball player. You know that name? While we're in break, Google it and see why his name is back in the news. JoJo White. I'll give you a hint. 1991 had something to do with the Drake Diner. We're coming back. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Chris Roloff from 993thetruth.com in the house. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat, and the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. And Jeb is producing, and he's monitoring the line that I want to hear your voice on. 244-0077. Live here on The Truth.